Welcome to Needle Stack. I'm your host, Robert Famosi, and AJ's got the week off, so I'll be doing this alone today. So I'd like to introduce my guest, Chad.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Chad Brockway. I'm the president of the Intelligence Operations Division at Edgeworth Security. As far as background goes, I come from 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, as you can probably see behind me here in my home office. I did 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, where I was stationed and assigned to the Marine One Helicopter Squadron and then the White House Liaison Office during the Clinton and Bush administrations. When I left the White House and the Marine Corps service, I went to the DoD, where I worked on counterintelligence and counterterrorism for 3 years. After my time there, I got selected and went over to work for the FBI with the Special Technologies and Applications section located here in Washington, D.C. with the FBI headquarters.
How long were you there, you said?
I was with the Bureau just a little bit under 9 years. Got there in about 2004, left around 2013.
And during that time, there was a bit of consolidation of some of the intelligence community. Prior to that, it had been very individualized.
Definitely. Yeah, I got to be there with the FBI during a very unique time in how the FBI's mission and investigative processes were being developed and going through a change. Around 2006, the FBI, the CIA, the DoD in general started realizing that, there are some really good commercial tools out there that we may be able to utilize as a part of our mission and our tasking. And, prior to that, a lot of the capabilities and investigative practices that law enforcement use were in-house. They were developed in-house. They were built in-house. They were part of a pre-approved investigative process. And, when these new commercial off-the-shelf referred to as COTS tools started coming out, the Bureau specifically started looking at some of the capabilities that these tools had and how they could be utilized as a part of the FBI's tasking to investigate crimes across the U.S. and on a global level as well. And so I got to kind of be a part of that technology assessment and increase, going through, looking at the different tools, capabilities, building out what we had to incorporate some of those things. But it was a very challenging time, not only for the Bureau, but the federal government and all, because I don't know if you've ever really been a part of, the FedGov and utilizing tools and applications and licenses, but there's a very stringent process that the FedGov has to go through whenever they bring on a new capability, right? It has to meet legal standards. It has to meet compliance standards. In everything from how they identify data, how it's collected, where it's collected from, how it's stored, how it relates to U.S. person rights, how, the legal authority in how discovery, chain of custody, evidentiary discovery, all of those things had to come into play. And the FBI went through a very stringent process in how they identified these new capabilities and tools, how they brought them in and how they incorporated them into the FBI investigative process. So I got to kind of see and be a part of that within the Bureau for almost 9 years. After that time, I served with a guy by the name of Ken Young during my time in the Marines. I did 5 and out. Ken did almost, I think, 21, 22 years in the Marine Corps. Like, he was a Marine type of guy, but we just kind of almost 20 years later ran into each other kind of out in DC and just kind of catching up and talking about what he was doing with this company called Edgeworth Security and kind of what I was doing around open source intelligence, signals intelligence, and dark web intelligence. And kind of his challenge to me was, how do we take what you have done in your career in the intelligence industry and utilize that to provide services to the commercial and private industry? So that was right around the end of 2017. And, so we put together this business line and this compliance process, ensuring that what we were doing and how we were doing it served our clients. And also we did it in a legal way. And we were sound and viable in what we were trying to do. And we've been up and doing it for almost 8 years now. So we've been very successful in how we're doing and what we're doing. And, we service just a huge variety of clients through the commercial and private industry. We've done work for almost the entirety of Hollywood. So, all your major production studios, talent agencies, PR agencies, the individual actors and actresses. We do a considerable amount of work around professional sports, so NFL, NHL, MLB, and also the music industry, right? So all your individual musicians, probably any top 10, top 20 artists that you've heard of, for the past 10 years at Edgeworth has been a part of, ensuring that they are able to do the things they need to do in their daily life in a safe way. And, when we first started this kind of, this brand new kind of private, intelligence service offering, we were probably about 2 years early to market, honestly. We were going out and we were meeting with movie studios and actors and actresses and talent agencies and NFL teams and, venues and stadiums. And we'd go in and we'd kind of talk to them about, here's what open source intelligence is. Here's how it works. Here's what the dark web is. Here's what we do in that. And they're kind of like, oh, wait, computers? You talk about computers? Let me get my cybersecurity team in here. And it's kind of like, no. Like, let's keep going down this path and really helping our clients to understand what intelligence as a service is and how Edgeworth is bringing that intelligence service to them. We're really kind of in a way that's never been done before. One story I really like to kind of refer to as a great example of this is we went to meet with the NHL team, and we're having great conversation with the NHL team management and the venue owners and all these things. They're like, oh, we have a team that does this. And I was like, that's great. I would love to talk to them, see what they're doing, how they're doing it, how we can be better, how we can help you be better. And they're like, well, it's just one person. I'm like, great. I'd love to meet that person. And so we kind of got shown to this desk, and it ended up just being one girl who was like, the secretary to the front office. And, she was scrolling Facebook and at the time Twitter, just looking for mentions of that team specifically, or the coach or the venue. It's like, okay, I really think we can help out here. So that's kind of, our first 2 years became very educational, helping the clients understand what we do, how we do it, and then the value we're able to provide to them. And, Edgeworth is mostly focused around security in general. But when you really think about intelligence, it's the capability of finding and having access to the information you care about that otherwise you may never know about, right? So, when you talk about the individuals, right, our high net worth, high public profile, or our high net worth, low public profile individuals, these people suffer from, physical threats and risks, identity theft, blackmail, extortion, bullying, harassment. All of these things they deal with on a pretty persistent basis. And most of them are very humble about it, right? They're like, yeah, like this is just my daily life. This is what happens. Or, I'm not that big a deal, But when we come in and we engage and we help them understand this is what you're dealing with. Here's really what it is, right? Here's who it is. Here's where they are. Here's what you need to know about them. Do they have a criminal history? Do they have a history of violence? Do they have access to firearms or firearms training? Are they geographically co-located to you that they actually represent a threat, right? If one of our clients in LA is experiencing threats and risks against their life, we can investigate that. We can help them understand it. If it's just some person mouthing off in Southern Florida and has no way to ever get to them or has never even been to California, we can help our clients understand the dynamic of what the actual situation is. And this is all through open source intelligence and intelligence collection, right? We utilize not only OSINT tools, but some subscription tools and then some dark web tools as well. But I mean, when you think about PR, public relations, public sentiment analysis, helping these studios, these teams, these companies, these organizations understand what the public is saying about them, what that means to them, where they're being received well and where they're being received poorly, so they can maximize on where they're being received well and then adjust focus maybe where they're being received poorly and get a better messaging out there, right? If a shoe company is, getting ready to put out a product, we can go to that company and say, here's everything that your general consumer market is saying about your product. Here's the good, here's the bad. Here's how they're comparing it to your competition. Here's what they're saying about the spokesperson that you've hired to come in and support this product. really helping our clients understand the value that they're getting for their money. Hollywood's a great example of this, right? If you think about, the Hollywood production budget line is huge. It's phenomenal these days. It's multi-millions, if not billions and billions of dollars to put forth a movie, right? So when these studios are getting ready to do this, helping them understand, here's how the public is reacting to this script or this movie idea or this actor and actress that you've put into it. Just giving them that all-around access to information to make good informed decision is really what the process of intelligence is.
While you were at in the government space, there had been siloization of intelligence, and then it was brought together. I'm curious, what were some of the methods that involved open source that you can talk about that weren't strictly proprietary? I mean, how kludgy was it? I mean, how creative, how hacky did you have to be in order to glean some of the intelligence that you needed to provide your analysis?
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's really something that's led a lot to the success on the private industry side is in the Bureau. There was a very firm set guideline on how we could utilize open source intelligence information, right? How we collected from different data sources. Every data source out there has different rules and regulations, usage and terms in how their data can be identified, reviewed, collected, processed, and used in a legal court system, right? And we had to adhere to that very, very strictly, right? Because anything outside of that, any good defense lawyer out there, they learned really, really quick what the parameters were of collection of information online, specifically regarding US rights, right? US person rights. And all those individual databases and social media sites and Reddit and 4chan that were out there, they all very strictly controlled how their user population's information could be accessed and used. And we had to adhere to that, right? And a lot of that involves search warrants and all those other legal processes. But as far as everything that we did in how we refer to it as generating leads for lead generation purposes, right? We could always go out and just utilize a Google search engine to identify leads on information, process search warrants, get our collection through a legal process then and bring it in. But, I worked with some of the most intelligent and genius individuals in the world during my time at the FBI, and the processes, procedures that they were able to come up with was just absolutely revolutionary at the time. Now it's an everyday concept, right? But at the time, it was absolutely revolutionary. You think about things like your smart devices, your phones that you take everywhere, Aura rings, watches, headphones, earphones, all these things we wear on us all the time. They are persistently collecting all of our information everywhere we go. It's collecting where we are, who we're with, what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're searching. And all of that is being stored and referenced. And this used to be referred to as ad tech data, right? And the original intent and purpose on it was the ability to identify the things people cared about and were interested in so the companies can more effectively market them, right? If you go online and you search for a TV, and I'm sure you've seen this, Robert, you go somewhere and you search for a vacuum cleaner, and then all of a sudden you go to your social media account and that vacuum cleaner is being advertised to you, right? How do you think that happens? It's because they all know every account that you have. And when you do something here, they send it over here to be advertised to you. When they buy it here, they get a percentage of that, right? So that was the original intent of all this, what we refer to as PII collection, your personal identifying information and everything that makes you your digital footprint online. Well, in the law enforcement side, and unfortunately on the hacker side as well, people who are illicitly collecting and identifying this information and utilizing it. But on the law enforcement side, we could utilize proper legal procedure to get a search warrant, serve that search warrant or subpoena, get that information, and further our investigation in ways that would have normally taken the FBI years to go out, identify these pattern of life, where these people are, what they're doing, who they're engaging with. Now with this digital data kind of fingerprint that exists on us in our everyday life, that process and discovery at the FBI advanced our capability to investigate crime and prosecute criminals leaps and bounds, right? And that was a part of the unit that I was with the Special Technologies and Applications section. We were led by two individuals there, our section chief and assistant section chief, who were just years ahead of the entire rest of the FBI, and I'll say the federal government in whole, in how they were identifying new capabilities and processes that the FBI could utilize in investigation and data collection. So, things based around forensic investigation and collection, how we were utilizing digital evidence to identify content of interest and use that in our prosecution. It was just an amazing time to really be with the FBI and the FedGov in whole. And now I'm kind of going through that again here in the private sector where, we're bringing this capability. I mean, now it's exploded. You could probably find 4 or 5 companies out there who are all offering kind of this OSINT service of threats and risks and information discovery. I'm very biased, Robert, and I openly admit that. But I have yet to see a single kind of other provider who quite does it in the way that we do.
Whoa. Okay. Well,
I'm not talking about the tools, Robert. I'm not talking about the tools. I'm talking about the service.
Anyway. What I wanted to shift over to was the story that you started to tell a little bit about some of the celebrities that you work with or some of the studios that you work with. And just give us a sense of some of the scenarios that you've worked with. You don't have to name names, obviously, but, are we talking about obsessive fans? Are we talking about nation states looking to do ransoms? I mean, all of the above. What are the scenarios?
When it comes to celebrities and, these multi-billion-dollar, million-dollar studios, companies, and businesses, not only do they deal with everything that you and I deal with every day, they're also faced with the challenges of being a global target of people's interest, right? And a majority of that interest is positive and it's good. Unfortunately, there is a percentage where that interest is not good. So, you think about the celebrities with like death threats, right? We've seen some of the most horrific stuff in the world you could imagine, people posting and sending about our clients to them, to their families, right? Theft, right? If you look at just the break-ins and the robberies that take place across the high net worth, high public profile clients that are out there. The NFL experienced a huge theft occurrence just last year where we all know where the teams are going to be and when they're going to be there. And then they're waiting for those athletes to leave their homes so that they can break in. And now they're stealing trophies and rings and jerseys and helmets. And these are all the things that these type of clients have to deal with on an everyday basis that we help them out with. And, when you get to be our age, Robert, our clients have kids, right? And those kids are growing up in an age of technology that we didn't grow up in, right? Probably, Robert, for you and I, nothing existed about us online before the age of 20, 22, maybe. Whereas our kids, they exist online almost from day one, right? The parents are posting pictures. They're talking about them. They're sharing birthdays and sports and school events online. And as their kids are growing up and becoming teenagers, our clients are now facing challenges and difficulties that they've never had to face in their own lives and they have no experience with. So when a client calls me and says, Chad, I've got a problem. My daughter, she's, her Snapchat account was hacked. We don't know who hacked it. They've taken over our identity. They're talking to her fans. They're saying all these things about the family. We don't know what to do. We're really at a loss, right? And that's where we come in. And I use a lot of kind of military terminology, if you will, but stop the bleeding, right? The battlefield bleeding. Get in, identify the problem, deal with the immediate bleeding. How do we stop this from being a problem right now? And then we go into who was involved, the who, what, where, why and how of it, and then prevention. Stop it from preventing in the future, which usually just comes with education, right? And I kind of alluded that to in the beginning that I think that's something we provide in a very unique way is helping our clients understand what they're dealing with, what it means, and kind of what their options are.
In terms of like someone who has taken over a Snapchat and is now spreading whatever messages out there, without You have to be in the Snapchat world, though, to do that type of investigation. You're no longer OSINT, is my point. At that point, you're working with the vendor. Is that correct?
Correct. And I mean, it could be agnostic, right? We're talking about Snapchat, but we could be talking about anything. We could be talking about, any of the meta platforms or any of the other platforms, public interest sites such as Reddit and 4chan that exist out there. So there is a huge OSINT piece to it. I mean, think about theft. We just talked about robbery of homes. Where do these individuals go to now sell those high value items with some type of perceived anonymity, right? Because everybody has this comfort level of perceived anonymity online, and it just doesn't exist. So when our clients experience these things like using, break-ins and theft and vandalism as an example, or threats to life, like you picked, right? We can go on through the OSINT investigative process. We can identify, okay, is anybody talking about this? Is anybody referencing it? Is anybody saying, hey, just hit something big in Hollywood or Beverly Hills, tell you all about it later? Our tools have the capability to go out, identify this information and collection of interest, provide that to us, and then my team, my analysts can go out, find where that was, identify, is this relevant to our investigation and our client's problem, and then continue to utilize OSINT as an exploratory from there to provide more information. Kind of like I said, intelligence is all about the art of gaining as much information about anything that you care about. And that's the facilitator that we become for our clients.
Right. So it's not so much targeting the platform that it was started with. It's more the reciprocal effects of them trying to pawn off the stuff that they've stolen or the photos that they've absconded with and so forth. That's the open source stuff that you're able to track down and then circle back and identify.
That's exactly right, Robert. And I mean, it's a full process too, right? Like we're very ethical in everything we do. We adhere to all evidentiary discovery, chain of custody, usage and term agreements on how we utilize our tools and how we collect from databases and data sources out there. But this is kind of the part where I said, I haven't found another service provider that does things quite the way that we do. And what that really means for our clients is, in the end, every single thing we do for them and how we provide them a service, they are able to utilize in any process they need, right? Whether it's civil, whether it's federal, whether it's legal, it doesn't matter. And that's another piece we bring to the table, because so many of us are prior law enforcement. We can help them navigate that engagement with law enforcement. We can send them our intelligence report, which consists of everything they need for discovery and evidentiary collection, and their job is done. Like we've built such great kind of camaraderie with law enforcement out there, because now when we first called, Robert, the very first time I called the LAPD, and I didn't know this at the time, but they have like a special detective unit for celebrities, right? And the very first time I called there, and they're like, who are you and what are you doing? And so it's kind of like, yeah, like, all right, hear me out. So here's my client. This is what we're doing. This is what we've done. Here's everything I have. Because of my previous experience in law enforcement, I knew exactly what they needed in order to engage and kind of put that end cap on the process. And I sent them our intelligence report, and he called me back in about 10 minutes. He's like, this is amazing. He's like, who are you again? And where did you get this? And kind of walking through it. And now when we have a problem, I just call direct over there. It's like, Chad, what's going on, man? How can we help? And, kind of bringing that knowledge and that expertise as well is what we help our clients with.
So you bring up an interesting question. There's criminal and civil. And I wonder if there's a clean break there, or do they always go for the criminal and go through law enforcement? I would think because that's public, that could be detrimental to reputation or whatever. Maybe they want to go civil, and it's a little more quieter that way.
You're absolutely right, Robert. And our clients, I'm going to give a very double-sided of something here. Our clients are very public facing, right? They're very famous. They're out there. Everybody either knows about them by their personal name or their brand or the company, whatever it happens to be, right? But on the other side, they really, really value their private life. and, for what they have to do for their career and be out there and be that public image. For the rest of side of their life, they don't want that. And so you're absolutely right. When we help our clients come to a resolution and identify a problem, an issue, a concern, and then solve it, we also help them understand, here's what your options are, right? Under certain conditions, we do have a mandate to report, right? So if it's things like child pornography and terrorism and, death, and, there's 5 qualifiers in that, we mandatorily have to report that to law enforcement. To some degree, the client has the capability to say, I want to engage law enforcement. I want to have my lawyer engage with them directly on the civil side, or I just want them to leave me alone, right? And we can help facilitate on all of those levels. Whatever the client's comfort level is, we have you're absolutely right, Robert. One of the worst things that can happen to some of our clients is a personal issue that they're dealing with winds up on TMZ, right? And so that's what we really help our clients avoid, protecting their privacy, helping them deal with the situation in a private matter, and helping them understand what their options are.
So again, speaking in generalities here, these are more like obsessed fans, paparazzi, and I would probably say not as threatening as, say, this isn't like organized crime, this isn't like nation state.
We have not run into any nation state things yet. However, our client list is very impressive, and it's also very robust. And there is no doubt in my mind that the nation state actors would have a significant interest in a good handful of our clients. But that's part of the things we do on the intelligence side. Not only do we come in on an incident, help identify, deal with, and mitigate an incident, we also do ongoing persistent monitoring for our clients. So this is really where the OSINT process and the dark web process come into play, where, okay, everything's great in your life right now. Let us ensure that it stays that way, right? What are people saying about you online? What are they talking to you about in the community? As you know, with your company, there are some really good OSINT tools out there to include yours. And what we do is every year we go out and we look at every possible COTS tool we can identify, because everybody does something good. Nobody does everything. And we put together a tool suite every year of various COTS tools. And we utilize that tool suite to ensure that we are covering as much of our clients' interests as possible. We are out there, we're monitoring. What are they saying about our clients? Is it good? Is it bad? Are they talking about, if you look at the dark web, and if you look at, the big scary dark web, and you look at like the cyber communities, the hacking communities that exist in the dark web, we usually see one of 3 things when it comes to one of our clients being targeted. It's either, I've already targeted and compromised this individual or this corporation. Here's my proof, right? It's, I'm going to, here's how I'm going to do it. I already have this in place, or I want to. Who wants to help, or who can do this for me, right? And we're in those communities persistently watching, monitoring, engaging, working the narrative, if you will, just to kind of ensure that, number one, we're aware of the information, and number 2, interjecting enough counterintelligence information where appropriate to kind of prevent those things from happening. So that's kind of that persistent and ongoing, where it's the concentric rings of security. And this is again something I'm very biased, Robert. I admit this up front, that we do very well, right? We have executive protection. We've got the bodyguards that are protecting you in that physical entity. We've got remote AI cameras with a command center that's 24/7 monitoring the locations that you care about with live agents, right? Both of those entities exist to identify threats and risks as they're happening and immediately mitigate them. Intelligence is the art of identifying those threats and risks before they ever show up at your doorstep, right? And so that persistent, ongoing OSINT dark web process is what allows us to do the prevention side of what our clients are already experiencing on a day-to-day basis.
So you're basically taking a militaristic approach to a celebrity be it a football star, a movie star, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately, this is the way society and the internet and everything has evolved, such that they require those services that were once, only for like foreign dignitaries or, CEOs of major corporations. It's now gone down to, the actor on a TV show that you enjoy every week.
Yeah, you're actually right, Robert. I mean, it's just like I kind of alluded to with the FBI, right? The same way the technology has enabled the FBI to be more efficient in how they conduct investigations and prosecute criminals, technology has enabled these people out there to, victimize or attempt to victimize our clients. And that's where we're existing now in that world. Technology has enabled the globe to focus on any individual anywhere in the world. And so OSINT, the process of OSINT and the dark web and signals intelligence and human intelligence is out there stopping it before it ever kind of shows up at the doorstep.
Well, great. Thank you, Chad. This has been a very insightful conversation. I appreciate you sharing some of your background and, more importantly, the stories of the people that you're protecting today.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate your time, Robert, and look forward to speaking to you again.
I'd like to thank Chad for being on the show today, and thanks to our audience for supporting NeedleStack. You can find more about Chad on our show notes. You can find our show notes and transcripts from other episodes by visiting authenticate.com/NeedleStack. That's authentic with a number 8.com/NeedleStack. And be sure to send us a comment. We do read them. And be sure to follow us on Mastodon, Blue Sky, and other social media networks at NeedleStack Pod. And if you'd like to subscribe where you're listening to right now, go ahead and do so. We love subscribers. All right. Until next time, take care.